Welcome back to the Resilient Man podcast, where we dive into real stories of struggle, growth, and everything in between. In today's episode, I'm joined by Shaun, and he shares his journey of losing his dad at just 13 years old to stepping up for his family, finding his identity at university, and eventually building his own brand from scratch. He opens up about the drive that came from his childhood, the mental challenges of running a business, and why giving back is at the heart of everything he does. Let's get into it. Shaun, welcome to the Resilient Man podcast.
Thank you, James. Great to be here.
Thank you very much for coming on. Always looking for good guests, and we've known each other for a little while, so I'm really keen for you to share your story and really dive in. So on the Resilient Man podcast, it's all about sharing those 2 to 3 moments of struggles, coming adversity to help inspire other men and let them know they can get through it. So if you were to give me 2 to 3 high level, just like the bullet points of those key moments for you, what would they be?
So I think for me, obviously, it's not a good experience that you want to happen to anyone, but, it's made me stronger is that, I had quite a difficult childhood and I lost my father due to alcohol at the age of 13. So that made me sort of become the man of the house with my younger brother and sister, and my mum was obviously a single mum. So that, I think, changed me as a person in terms of how I developed because, I was sort of forced at a young age to take on responsibility, really, and I couldn't sit back and just be a child all the time or be a teenager. I had a lot of responsibility and, although sometimes I resent that, I do know that it's made me the person I am today, and I'm grateful for it as well.
I love that that perspective that you shared, and the fact that you are stronger from that. Because the first thing that runs through my mind is how on earth can you like process that at such a young age as well? That seems like it would be extremely hard to try and wrap your head around, and then the fact that you've picked yourself up and did that. So did you feel like you had to be the man of the house because you said you got a younger brother and a younger sister, and that put a little bit of pressure on you then to try and step up to the plate?
Yeah, I think that was part of it. And also, my mum needed the support. I was always quite good at school. And, I can even remember a time when letters would come, for instance, from utility bills and things like that. And I'd be reading them at the age of 10, 11, explaining to people what it was. I remember I actually had a friend whose mum couldn't read, and she used to bring her bills round for me to read them to her. And I was like, "Oh, you owe them this much. This is what they're gonna." Do you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. So, I suppose at the time, at that age, you don't think, "Oh, I shouldn't be doing this." Like you just don't, until a lot later in life, you don't realize it's just normal for you until you go to school and. Maybe you hear other people talking about things they're doing at home and you think that sounds different to what my home life's like. It's just normal, as a child, what's happening in your home is normalized by what you do every day. And you don't, until you start going to school and comparing with friends and things, you don't think about these things. And it's not until later in life, really, that it comes back to you. I definitely had difficult times growing up later because of it, but I feel like what it has given me is more drive and more passion to really go for what I want to go for in everything that I do. And also, of course, I'll talk a bit more about it later, but it's given me the need to help other people as well. So I work with a local charity called Real in Mansfield who help young people that are having difficulty at home or they're having difficulty at school. And what we do is we take them out, take them to the cinema, bowling towers, take them on trips. We're basically like youth mentors for these young people. And it's a bit of respite for them and it gets them out of that situation that they're in. And the reason I do that is because it's exactly what I needed when I was that age. And I know that I can be the person that gives them what I needed. all ties into sort of what my goals are for the future, really, as well, and what I want to do following Sparks.
That's incredible, and it's so good that you've found and become aware of that charity, and that you're able to give back in something that you're quite passionate about. What helped you? Well, what I know you mentioned you're motivated and drive. Where did that come from? That motivation and that drive at such a young age?
Yeah, I think just within myself, really, because people always say to me, like, if you haven't had anyone to like inspire you, then like, where does it come from? And people can't understand that. And they're like, because obviously most people, when you watch all these stories on Netflix about, Lewis Hamilton, Michael Jordan, all these great people, all they ever talk about is how amazing their family were when they were younger. They took them here every weekend and they dedicated this to them. They told them this, and not that I would ever take anything away from my mum because she's made me a great person and a kind young man, but she didn't have the ability to be able to give me those sort of things, or we didn't have the financial ability either. So I think it just came from like seeing what was around me really and wanting more for myself and knowing that I could be more and wanting to get out of that situation and something else and be someone and make something of everything and to give back to my family as well. I guess that drive just came from within really, from that and just went from there really.
Wow, that's really quite powerful. And as you said, yeah, a lot of people have that family support there, but the fact that you're
Mm.
so self-driven and so motivated is very inspiring. So you went through school, and I know you mentioned just after school, you then started getting into the marketing side of things. Do you want to just break that down for us?
Yeah, so I was the first in my family to go to university really, and it was an unknown thing going to university in my family. And I remember being scared of going to university, thinking that like, oh, this is really out of my comfort zone, and like I shouldn't be going to university. I'm not the sort of person that should be doing that. I'm not from the right caliber of people that should be going to university. And, it's a lot different now and it's a lot more open, but I feel like there was a bit of more there was a lot more difficulty for people from low social economic backgrounds to go to a good university. And but I was lucky that my teachers were really encouraging, and they were like from like the age of 15, 16, they were like, you should go to university and don't worry about whether anyone in your family's been before. This is what the experience is going to be like, and you're going to love it. So that was drilled into me actually in education from teachers. So that was really good because that's why I went to university because I was told so many good things about it by people who were teaching me really. And yeah, I did journalism at university with English language in Leicester at De Montfort, and yeah, it was the best experience of my life. It changed me as a person massively because what it did is it gave me a new lease of life, a new leaf. I was able to go to this new city, and I was finally able to go and be my own person and be myself. I didn't have all the stresses of what I might have had before when I was younger at home because this was my chance to like blossom and be me really and find Shaun, who Shaun was and what he wanted and where he wanted to go. And, I would recommend it to anybody really because it was, yeah, such a like fulfilling experience for me, and I had such a great time. I've met friends there that I still know now and still speak to, and yeah, I did well, but newspapers were sort of dying a little bit at the time. So what I did is start doing a lot of online journalism. So when I first left university, I worked writing about football games for online football websites. I'm a big Nottingham Forest fan, and I wrote for the match day program for a while, for 2 seasons, wrote match reports. So got like a press. This was all free as well, so I didn't get paid for any of this. I did like ridiculous amounts of free paid work experience because I'd always just been told that like you're gonna need it, like, and in my head, I feel like I felt I needed to prove myself more than other people, and that I needed to do all this free stuff because they're not going to believe that I'm good enough else. So I just went and did it all. I was like, I'm just going to do it free, and I'm going to do this for free because I've always had this massive passion to show what I can do. And I feel like that's come from like the lack I had in childhood, that I want to prove myself to everyone. And, that's still in me now, but, it's calmed down a lot because I'm a lot more of a rounded, calm person now. But, it was definitely still in me then. And, yeah, and then I just fell into marketing after that because I was doing online journalism. And obviously, a lot of the articles I was writing, websites would be like, we need to promote this now. Do you know anything about SEO, marketing, social media was getting big? So then I sort of fell into, oh, actually, I need to promote my articles now. And that's where I got into marketing. And I got my first job as a copywriter writing about garden sheds. So I just used to write all day about different size sheds and what you can keep them in and what kind of wood they're made out of. And literally, that's all I would do all day. But it was a start for me in marketing, and it was a job where I was getting paid to write, so I loved it.
So there was quite a lot of time there. So during that time from you leaving home, going to university, and getting your first job, what were your biggest obstacles that you had to face?
I think it was, I had my independence before. I was always an independent person, but it was going out there socially into an environment where, sometimes you don't have as much in common with people because they've come from a very sort of grounded family background where, I guess in my head, I would call it like normal, you know, and I'd come from a not so normal background and like being able to interact and relate to those people and them to relate to you, I guess. But I think that definitely did happen and it worked. And it was fears that I had that I didn't need to have. But, I think there's something that says like 80% of the things you worry about never actually happen anyway. The things that we worry about, I've definitely found that so many times in my life and in my personal life and in my career that most of the time you're worrying about something for no reason. And that was that case with that.
So how did going to uni change you as a person, and what kind of impact did it have on you?
I think the main thing for me is, as I already touched on, really, it gave me a chance to like reset a little bit. I was going into a place where nobody had any prejudgments of me. Nobody knew anything about me. I could be myself and be the person I wanted to be, really. And I could showcase my skills, I guess, to a new set of people, really. It's very difficult when you stay in the same town all your life and the same people are there and, you don't get to blossom really. And I think I needed that. Some people don't need that, but I needed that sort of escape really. And I came back obviously eventually, but, yeah, I just had such a great time. It's just really a time, as well as for learning, it's just a time for you, I would say, as a person. It's really a time to like explore yourself and explore what you like, what you don't like, and opportunities. And yeah, I wouldn't change it for the world. I didn't even get into the university I wanted to go to. So I wanted to go to Liverpool. And I remember I was absolutely gutted on results day that I didn't get in. And DMU was just the insurance choice. And I really didn't want to go there. And I was like, because obviously you go to these open days, and I'd been to an open day at Liverpool, and I'd gone during the time when there was students everywhere, and it was buzzing, and I loved the atmosphere. And then I'd gone to Leicester for their open day at a time when all the students were back home. And it was just dead, and it just hadn't given me that same feeling. So in my head, it made me think like, "Oh, I don't want to go here." Do you know what I mean? But when I look back now, if someone said like you could go back and change it and you could go to Liverpool instead, I'd be like, no, I don't want to. It's what you make of it yourself. So what I would say to anyone is don't worry about what you need to go to or where you want to go if you don't get into your first choice, because it's going to be what you make it. And I believe everything happens for a reason at the end of the day. So I loved my time there, and yeah, I came back because it wasn't too close. It wasn't too far. I came back to Nottingham a lot still, but yeah, I'll always have a special place for Leicester in my heart, I think.
That's some great advice as well. So how was that? So you went away for a few years, living that lifestyle of Shaun being who you want to be. How was the transition coming back? Was it difficult, or was you just kind of fit back into your old self, or? How did that work?
No, I don't think it was too difficult because it changed me really. It was almost 4 years because I stayed a bit longer to work as well because I worked all the way from the age of 16 until now. I've never not had a job even in education. Even when I was at uni, I had a job the whole time, which was different because most students I lived with and I was friends with didn't have jobs. I just always needed that extra money, whereas a lot of them didn't. They had support from family financially. I didn't have that, so I needed to be going to work, and it was hard because there'd be nights where they'd all be going out, and I'd be like, I've got to go do a shift, and I tell you, I remember being really down about it at times and just being like, I just wish I didn't have to do this, but when I think back now, it made me a stronger person because I got through those years of having to go to work so many hours a week and just got used to it, and the money was worth it and I needed it at the end of the day. But yeah, I think I transitioned quite well because I'd spent that amount of time being this new person, or not a new person, but just being myself really. And that then became like who I was really. And coming back, obviously my new excitement and passion for journalism and marketing was there, and I'd done all this work experience, so I was able to sort of walk straight into other jobs and work experience. So it sort of kept me busy, really. And then it just went from there, really. And I actually met my wife probably about 6 months after leaving university. So that kind of obviously changed everything as well. So I didn't actually stay at home much longer after that because I moved in with her and her parents, and then we got our own place, and then we're still together now. So yeah, that's where that went.
Yeah, so I can see why you're looking back and say that you don't regret everything because you wouldn't be where you were, or where you are, sorry, all those things hadn't happened previously.
Definitely, yeah.
So, in terms of career, then, so you've done uni, you've passed that, and then did you say first job is writing about sheds, or where did you go from there?
Yeah, so I had a job for 6 months writing about garden buildings. Then I got offered a job. So I was always quite like active on LinkedIn trying to find. I knew I didn't want to do that forever. It was just the start a job, and I wanted something a bit more exciting. And a job came up at Knots TV. So I applied for that, and I ended up working there. But again, that was only actually for 6 months because I again found something that I found more exciting, which was a sport PR company. And that's where my whole like career started properly, really, because I went from being like a social media sort of assistant slash manager at Knots TV to being an account manager in a PR company where we were working with lots of different clients, traveling around the world quite a lot. Just something totally like different and exciting for me, and something that I never thought I would do as a young person. And that was also when I first started coming up with the ideas for Sparks and Socks because I was working in sports PR. So I was seeing and speaking to all these people that worked in sport and fitness all the time. And obviously that gave me a good experience of handling clients and different products and marketing products and things like that. So yeah, well, after that, apart from I had a little stint at a website company, but then I went back to the sports PR company. And then apart from that, the only other roles I've done is I did a bit of teaching as well, marketing teaching. And more recently, I did another content role before taking up Sparks full time about 2 months ago.
So, is starting your own company always been a goal, always been a dream of yours?
No, definitely not. It's never something I imagined or thought about really. And it definitely started out as just, I thought to myself, I might just sell some of these to friends. So me and my friend who I started it with, he's not part of the business now. We, after going to the gym and wearing a lot of sort of free for a £10 Nike Puma socks. We just weren't really happy with the quality of them. And it just started there during lockdown, really, creating some samples, coming up with ideas for designs and just wasting a bit of money really at the time on things that were too big, too small, or we didn't like the structure of. And yeah, that's where it all started. So it was something I was doing alongside working in sport PR just as a hobby really. The evenings and on evenings and weekends. And yeah, I remember actually one of the funniest things is when I first started it, I actually set it up for guys thinking that, oh, yeah, all my mates will buy these for like when they're at the gym, like doing deadlifts or whatever it is, they can have the shoes off and have like comfy socks. And in my head, it was all like for guys. Now, today, about 80 to 85% of our customers are female. So we've actually got a lot of women involved in the business now in terms of on the behind the scenes as well. We work with females all the time to develop all our products, and we don't sell that much to men. So it's weird how like that came, how it turned into that, because obviously at the time it was just a bit of a side hobby where I thought some of my mates might buy some socks.
Yeah, no, that's that's different. I guess you don't know until you've tested the market. But so, what do you think has been the like if you was to pick like a couple of really challenging things in terms of like going full time or like building your business? What would you say they were?
I think one of the biggest ones is really the amount of sort of overwhelm and loneliness that you do get, because obviously when you're starting a small business, it's not like when you're working full time in a corporate job and you've got a team around you. It's very often just you. And obviously you get support from your friends and family, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with you, and it can be quite overwhelming to get everything in because you're wearing all these hats, you're marketing, you're sending out orders, you're speaking to suppliers, you're doing all your admin invoicing, you're speaking to your accountant, literally everything that normally, obviously coming from a corporate world, you just send someone an email and they do it for you, or you go, "Oh, that's Jen's job from whoever it is, or that's Mike's job over here." All of a sudden, everything's your job. Nobody else is helping you, and it's hard to get your head around that over time. I think it comes slowly, but yeah, I would definitely recommend taking things steady. I definitely made some mistakes where I just tried to do everything all at once, tried to launch multiple products all at once, when actually it would have been better to just be like, right, this is our core product, and let's head to this one we can, sort of thing. But yeah, that overwhelm is definitely one of the difficult things.
One of my next question was going to be, what would you do differently, or what would you have done differently?
Yeah, so I think I would take it step by step. And one of the things I would definitely do is I would say to anyone, if they would like, everyone's got an idea of something they think, "Oh, I would love to set up that one day," or I'd love to set up my own business doing this, but I can't because of X, Y, Z and finance and whatever else, which is the same things I said to myself. But what I would say is do it slowly. Like, to start with, I was literally just spending an hour or something on a Sunday. Like, I was like, right, let's see if I can find some supplies for this. I didn't have a website, didn't have anything. I would just spend maybe an hour a week on something. So no one can say they haven't got an hour a week spare to work on something, and just treat it like a hobby. And the funny thing is, everyone used to call it call Spock's a hobby. They used to say, "Oh, it's just pin money, isn't it? It's just, but yeah, he's got this side hobby." Last time someone called it a hobby, I can't even remember, but I'm glad about that, because I used to call it a hobby. I used to tell people it was a hobby, and then it just grew to a point that big that no one can really call it a hobby anymore because they've seen the success that we've had, which is amazing. That's what I wanted. I guess there is a little bit of me that, from everything that I've been through when I was younger, is I always want to prove myself, and I never want to give up on something. And a lot of businesses do fail, obviously, especially the first business anyone sets up. With me, I think that's why it's key to build the community that we've built, because it's not just about the product anymore. It's about this community that we've brought together. And we almost don't just sell the product anymore, but we sell being part of our community as well. And that's what I love about it, because that comes back to my own values of being part of something, that I always wanted to be part of.
I really love that your like drive and your commitment, and again, just for what you're saying there, this is not just a here's a sock, see you later kind of thing. It is that community
Hmm.
and that community feel. And I think there's quite a few sports like that give that community feel. Because I know for me, CrossFit is very much a community. I can see you're building a brand around a community, which I really admire. So
Thank you.
running a business, so you've recently transitioned, right? So you've gone from working to full time and running a business to now solely running your business. So adds a little bit of pressure because you're not getting that money in from your day job now, because this is your
Yeah.
day job. I guess how was you able to running both? We'll start off there. How did you manage that, and how did you manage your like own mental well-being not to like burn out essentially?
Yeah, I think the truth is I didn't manage it well at all at times, because I always wanted Spots to grow. So I'd be spending evenings, weekends, like if my wife was out, for instance, for the evening, I wouldn't sit relaxing all evening and be like, oh, let's get pizza in or whatever. I'd stay on my laptop. Honestly, I spent so many nights like I'd be on my laptop till midnight doing something to do with Sparks. I can't count the amount of hours I've spent. And people say you watch all these podcasts and things, and people say, oh, you've got to work hard, it's hard work, and it's late nights. And I can't stress like how true that is. If you don't want it enough, it's not going to happen. And I've just wanted it enough, and I still want it, and I'll always want it. And that's just some people just can't get that around their head why I'm like it, but I don't know why either. I just am. And yeah, and I think that's the big thing for me that I didn't really. But I think having a business coach helped settle me. I had a business coach on the side. Yeah, Luke was my business coach, and that basically gave me some accountability, but also he helped me manage my time. So, when I have free time up, I'm at work, I might be at work 8 till 5 or whatever it is, but where can I free time over the weekend or in the morning? Can I get up earlier, do this, those little things? And I did, as I mentioned to you before this podcast, I did used to spend all my lunches on work doing Sparks as well. So, I'd take food in or I'd get a sandwich and I'd just sit in my car or wherever it was, sending emails, doing Sparks on my lunch. I'd do it all the time, constantly, like week after week, day after day, all the time. And when I think back, it's a bit mad, but I never thought it was mad because I really wanted it to work. And that's the thing. You've got to really want it. You've got to be passionate about it. And also, the biggest thing is nobody's going to go and do it for you. Everybody's going to go out there and help you. You can ask them, you can get a little bit of help, but at the end of the day, it's you. You've got to take that action. So, like, that's what I tell myself all the time when things aren't working. No, and I guess it's, for me, I've grown up with that. I've grown up knowing that, you know, you're in charge, you're responsible, Sean. There's not someone here to come and help you. And that mentality's still in my mind all the time. And that's what drives me and makes me as obsessed as I am with stocks.
You mentioned a few things there. One which is about managing your time, and this is something that I sometimes struggle with. So alongside the podcast, trying to build like a coaching business, so everything you're saying to me is completely resonating. And what I've found helpful is before I go, right, close one laptop, open up a personal laptop, and then I'll just be like working away, but with no direction as to exactly what I want to achieve. So I'd end up procrastinating or just doing lots of different bits, feeling like I was doing really long hours. But so now what I do is I write down a checklist of, before I open my laptop, say, okay, I'm going to open my laptop and these are the first 3 or 4 things that I'm going to do. Because like yourself, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and there is so much to do or so much you could be doing. So that's one of the tips that has helped me. But if you was to look back on that, do you have any tips or like keys to success that you could dive in and share?
Yeah, I think similar to you, really, planning things out and having a bit of a structure to your week, and also having a separate space where you can shut away from work. If you've got space to have a desk somewhere at home where you can shut the door on it at the end of the day, that helps. I think it can be easy for something that you've got as a hobby or side business to take over the house and stuff like mine sort of has. But I think the biggest thing I would say is, I'm not great at that. I'm not great at any of that. And I struggle to give advice on structure because I'm still working on it myself. And that's perfectly fine. Like, you don't have to have everything all worked out. Like, I definitely haven't got the structure of my week worked out. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yes, I get up on a Monday and do X, Y, Z, and then I do this on a Tuesday because it doesn't happen like that. But I've got my strengths elsewhere, but I know where my weaknesses are too. And you've got to admit those weaknesses to yourself. That's what I would say. And that's the first step. And then work on them. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm working on my weaknesses of not having a great structure. Like you, I'm doing the same sort of thing. Like today, I've made lists of things that I need to do. You might have heard that term, eat the frog, which is like do the hardest thing that you really don't want to do first, and like the one big thing you've got to do that day, make sure you do that. And that's what I've done today. I've tried to do that today. But yeah, I think I'm learning all the time, and nobody's perfect, and you're gonna hopefully grow your business and get more support as it grows. But like I mentioned earlier, I think just take it step by step and don't try to do everything all at once. There's no shame in just making small steps. If you've got a full-time job, then you're fine, aren't you? You can carry on doing that and slowly work on what your passion might be. You don't have to go crazy and try and do it all in one week.
No, 100% agree. I appreciate your vulnerability. I think it's often come on podcast or you're coaching, and it's often like, here's what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? But actually, to say, do you know what? I am trying this, but I am still struggling. It is something that I work on. Actually takes a bit of courage in that as well. So thanks for your vulnerability there. One of the other things you mentioned was accountability, and this is something that really rings true with me in terms of no one's going to come and do it for you. You've got to go out there. If you don't go out there and put in the effort, then you're not going to get anything back. And would you be able just to expand on how important accountability is for when you've got these goals or these things that you want to do in order to move you forward?
Yeah, I think one of the big things, so I talked about weaknesses there, things that are my strengths is, so in my office, for instance, up here, I've got a board which I just got off Amazon, and I write things on there that like are my super goals and what I want to achieve. And I do believe in like writing down what you want to achieve and believing that it's going to happen. And something I learned from my coach, which is rings true to me all the time, is that action cures anxiety. When you're really worried about something, when you want to get something done, just do something to move towards that thing. Like there's been something I've been trying to do for the last like 3 or 4 weeks, and it's not even a difficult thing. It's like I needed to go on this website to set this email up, and I just can't. I've like can't bother to do it. Been putting it off, and in your head you start building it up and up and up, and all of a sudden it's this massive thing that's actually a 5 minute job or whatever it is. I know everything's not like that, but this is just an example. And I did that today, and then you remember after how good it feels. So yeah, I think writing down your goals and speaking them out loud to yourself every day is definitely helped me. I remember writing down on my board, and I recommend people do this, write down something that's crazy. Like I wrote down, I'm going to sell 1,000 pairs of socks. And I like laughed at it at the time. I remember thinking, yeah, whatever, like, whatever. I didn't really believe it, but I said it to myself every day and I started believing it. And now we've sold over 10,000 pairs of socks. So, it happened. And when it did happen, I couldn't believe it. But actually, by the time it did happen, I was almost more like, yeah, I know that was going to happen. And yeah, I've got crazy goals on there now, but I'm not going to reveal what they are, but they're not to do with numbers of sales anymore. They're to do with other things that I want to achieve. So yeah, I do really believe in manifestation.
What would your advice be for someone when it comes to goal setting? So how would they identify something they want to set a goal for, or how would they go about it, or how would you go about it?
I think I know people used to say this at school all the time, and like people hate it, but that smart targets thing actually is quite useful. Like something that's specific, measurable, achievable. I don't know if I can remember the others now. You'll probably remember them better than me. Realistic, isn't it? Realistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like I always like to set like a one crazy goal that you like. just like absolutely like that if you said it to someone, they're gonna be like, yeah, all right, mate, whatever. Which I've got one of those now, which if I said to you, you'd be like, yeah, okay. But I like to have one like that and then something more achievable that like that's for that week or that month. So I think it's good to have three, like have three at any one time, for me anyway. One which is like, this is my crazy goal. The next one, which is like for this week, so I need one for this week, which would just do that 5 minute email task that I've been putting off for ages, and then one for the month. And obviously for me at the minute, the one for the month tends to be quite financial because I'm quite new to this full-time business and I've got a mortgage to pay and bills to pay and we've got to be bringing in cash flow to keep the business running and keep afloat. But I'm hoping that some of those goals can change over time. But I think just keeping it simple with those three things works well for me.
I really like that, and it's something quite easily adoptable for people who are listening, and it's something which a conclusion that I've kind of come to as well. And when I'm sitting down, I'm like, right, what's my business goal today? It's to create this post, or it's to do this, or it's to do that. So like, right, okay, and then identifying that as success. So if I do that, then that's been success, rather than trying to scatter myself and do so many different things and never really achieve anything and then feel frustrated that I've like wasted an evening or something like that. So that's kind of been my approach, which kind of lines up with what you were saying there, which I really like.
Yeah.
So in terms of your well-being, so now you've got this company 2 months in to running it, you've got bills to pay. How do you manage and maintain your own well-being?
I think for me, my mental health is definitely maintained by doing some form of exercise, which I haven't been doing enough of the last the last like 6 months. So in the last couple of months, I've really upped that. So I've started doing yoga every Tuesday morning now, and I've started running again. And just like going for a run early in the morning or even going for a walk, just getting out, getting some fresh air, for me anyway, it just like changes my whole day. It just makes it rather than like, if I went downstairs and I sit on the sofa, sort of drinking a coffee or something on my phone, doing work already, straight away you're into this like sort of slouchy mode of like just yeah, and it feel like doing something separate from work at the start of the day and getting the endorphins going and like just getting some energy going, it just sets me up for the rest of the day really well. But at the same time, I'm one of those people who like says all these things and then doesn't listen to my own advice half the time. So like I know that I feel better when I do that, but I'll still some days not do it or and I'm like, what are you doing to yourself? It's like this conflict in your head. But I have got better at that in the last couple of weeks, and that's definitely something that helps me. The other thing is being around like-minded people, being in my business group with other people that also have got their own business is brilliant for me because what it does is it allows me to speak to people on a weekly basis that are in a similar situation to me or understand what I'm going through. Of course, you can speak to your family, you can speak to friends, but it's getting someone who's got that same understanding of what you might be going through. You can't always get that with them, and it's not through any fault of their own. I mean, I worked in lots of different jobs, corporate, smaller jobs, and everything for 13, 14 years. So I remember going through times where I was like, I never want to own my own business. I just love doing this and I'm just gonna, and I was passionate about wanting to progress in the company. And so I totally get that. I'm not here saying, oh, you shouldn't be doing that because I was that person as well. And I totally get it. But when you do become someone who is an entrepreneur and a business owner, you do want that support around you and you want that like-minded community that you can bounce things off. And it is good to have that, even if it's, for instance, you don't have to have a business coach. For instance, the other thing is I'm in a local business group that just meet once a month, for instance, and obviously you meet people there that you can then stay in touch with separately outside of that group. So there's lots of options because I think sometimes finance can get in the way as well. And obviously I'm used to that, so I know lots of ways to do stuff without having to pay as well. So I'm always happy to give people advice on that.
No, I really like that because one of the things you said was it is quite a lonely business, you know, being an entrepreneur, building it up, and despite having the family there, they don't really understand, they don't really get it, and it's from what you're saying, it's really good just to bounce ideas with people who are also going through the same process, although different company, but can relate, and like you say, bounce those ideas off, and suddenly it doesn't feel as lonely when you've got people going through a similar situation to you. The other thing you mentioned about the getting up and doing the exercise in the morning, that's something that we all know these things about ourselves, right? I'm better if I go out and do exercise, even if it's a walk or a run or go to the gym, especially in the morning, you kind of carry that energy like throughout the day. But one of the concepts I came across was called winning the week. And so the idea is that you try and do it at least 4 times in that week. So because we all have the off days where we don't really feel like it, but if you can manage to do the 4 days, and the whole concept is you win the week. And that's something that I'm trying to employ myself as well.
Yeah, I like that because I think I'm probably doing it 3 times a week at the moment. So if I could add in another one, that would be I would hit the quota.
Yeah, there you go. There's a target for you. Shaun, what does the future hold for you and sports? We kind of heard your journey from childhood to now, but where does the future take us?
So my whole goal really with Spox is to basically turn it into something that is giving back. So I either want to work with a charity in the future, like a big charity like UNICEF or something massive like that, where you're actually changing people's lives and still keep the business, or I want to potentially sell the business eventually and create some sort of charity of my own for young people. But obviously, I've not really thought that. I've thought as far as ahead of I want to do that, but I haven't got the details yet. But I'm thinking maybe something in to do with sport. Maybe the socks could still be included in it in some way. We're already working with Walk 92, which is something that's happening this year, starting in the new season for football clubs, where there's a guy who's walking to every club in the UK, all 92 clubs, football clubs in the UK. He's walking to them all, and it's all to raise money for the football in the community groups, which a lot of people don't know aren't actually funded by the club. So, like Manchester United, Chelsea's football club, they don't fund Manchester United in the community or Chelsea in the community. So, these charities that go around helping every community, helping children in every community, go into hospital to see children that are, struggling, dying, whatever it might be. They don't actually get funded by the club, so they rely on funding from the public. So that's something that we're involved in this year. So I'm really excited about that, and that leads on to like what we want to do in the future. Really, we want to be very involved in charities for young people, and the business will go that way, I think, eventually. But I just don't know in what form.
I've learned something there as well. One of the concept that I like is when we know why we want something, but we don't know how, but we've got that motivation and that drive to get there. Going back earlier on, that 1,000 sock target for you, you knew why you wanted it ultimately, but you didn't know how you was going to get there. But because of that sheer motivation and drive, you create the how through sheer persistence and consistency. So I really like that idea. So to round off the podcast, Shaun, I'd love to know what mental resilience means to you.
I think to me, mental resilience is being able to be yourself and keep your cool, but keep yourself as a person and not change the way you are, whatever the situation really. And I think it's different for every person, but it definitely for me, it means being able to be the genuine version of myself and do it all the time, even through stressors and through difficulties, because it's never easy.
So, despite the situation that you may be in, hold yourself true to who you are and try and portray that at all times.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think something I'm learning recently, doing more content, is just like be yourself, and if people don't like it, then don't worry about it, because I film videos now, and I'm really not great in front of camera. Don't enjoy it at all, but I just sort of started thinking, well, I'm just being myself. All I'm doing is being like, if I go and meet this person or all of these people that follow us in our community, I'm only going to be like I'm being now. So why can't I do a video where I'm just doing the same? So I definitely don't try to be anyone on camera. I'm just like, right, just be you, and that's it. And if people don't like it, and if I cringe, it's fine. I just don't watch it back.
I really like that because it's often myself with chasing that perfectionism, isn't it? And having to that almost that pressure of trying to be perfect or too perfect in order to post
Yeah,
it.
I think one other thing I've just remembered actually that's something, a really good piece of advice that helped me is I always used to compare so much. So as we were growing the business in the early stages, all I would do is I'd be on Instagram looking at what other stock companies are doing. What's this guy doing? What's this person doing? Oh, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do this. And then I'd try and do something similar. And I'd be looking at their stories every day. Maybe I should do that. And the biggest thing I learned is just try and do your own thing, have your own personality, make sure your brand is what you want it to be, and people will come. People will come. We didn't copy anyone. I wanted to at the start. I thought that was the right thing. I thought I was comparing all the time, and it definitely is. Comparison is the thief of joy, and what it's done for us not doing it and doing our own thing is it's helped us build this amazing community around our own, Spock's soulmates, as we call them. And it's just our thing, and it's our little thing that we love, and people love it as well. So, if it works and you're happy with it and you think people will love it, then they probably will. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing.
Be yourself, be authentic, and try not to compare and copy everyone else. Just be you.
Yeah,
Love it. Sean, thank you very much for being a guest. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much, mate.
yeah. Thank you for having me. Thank you.